So on top here is part of a letter written by a National Socialist in the mid 1930s, I believe, founded on the Bundesarchiv. And then I'm going to read below that, and I have one more page after this. So the letter says National Socialism also combats birth control, while this is naturally primarily due to practical political reasons. This National Socialist step is miraculously one more link that fits logically and harmoniously into the philosophical framework I have derived from Schopenhauer's teachings. For the prevention of conception represents a waste of human germ cells, and every unborn child is necessary material that is lost to the world as a whole and lacks to achieve its ultimate goal. Hand in hand with this goes the greater attention now given to our children and the care devoted to our descendants, as well as long term planning for the benefit of our future generations. All factors that inevitably arise philosophically within the framework of the lines of thought just developed with regard to the universal ultimate goal of humanity. The fact that National Socialism primarily has the German people in mind when implementing the measures mentioned is by no means a contradiction to this. On the contrary, it represents an example for other nations of the world to follow. So it's interesting, right, that they were combating birth control because they wanted Germans to have more children and for the population to grow. And that, I think, is in complete contrast to today's Judaized world where they are trying to tell people or teach people that we're overpopulated and too many people and white people should not have kids and blah blah blah, all that nonsense that I think has been around for probably since I guess shortly after World War II. And um, so above, you can see that Germany, a white-controlled nation, was planning for their future descendants. Do any of our nations do this today? They tell us we won World War II in Europe, right, on May 8th, 1945, which just passed. If so, why do our white nations not follow the above example? The time period from 1917 to 1945, the white race lost probably over 100 million people, possibly way more than that. Murdered by Jews in all the communist Bolshevik revolutions and the war, right? World War, what's officially called World War II. Therefore, at a minimum, a potential 2.7 billion descendants, white descendants, were lost, and possibly upwards of over 4 billion white people, future white people were lost. 2.7 to 4 billion whites that never were, but should have been. Does that sound like winning a war to you? Not for whites, but it certainly does for our enemy, right? Because their goal is the depopulation of the white Christian race. It always has been. So, and World War II was the culmination, or the final coup de grace, I guess, if you will. So, this is probably the biggest reason why the white race is in danger today. Think about these numbers and then add to that all the wars that have occurred after 1945, the massive amount of race mixing that we see all over the white world, the sterilization, right? Birth control, vaccines, psychological deception, right? Telling people not to have children, that we're overpopulated, the financial burdens that prevent people from having children, right? That they make it where both parents have to work, et cetera, et cetera. So there should be billions of white people in the world right now, and there aren't. So, and then here was from Chat GPT, and it goes through the estimated numbers of what should have been regarding the white race, or well, just population in general. But obviously, I'm gearing this towards the white race, right? I'm just estimating that each family would have 3 children on average, right? Which would mean that the population would grow, right? Two, it would stay stagnant. Anything over that, it would grow. And we know that a lot of families back in the 20s, 30s, I know from my grandparents, great grandparents, and a lot of people I know from that generation had, literally a dozen kids or more, or eight or six or whatever, way over three. So the number probably should be more than three, but I'm just lowballing it here. So, but yeah, so it just shows there. If you can pause and read the whole thing, but you can see on the bottom it says, so a single couple starting with three children per family could yield about 80 family members over 80 years, assuming three generations of reproduction and including spouses. So then over on the right, I expanded that out to estimate that at least 100 million people had died. So just for numbers wise, I'm estimating 50 women and 50 men. Now we know it's probably way more men that were murdered during this time period, um, but it's really irrelevant. That could actually exacerbate memory even more than what I'm saying because that many more couples couldn't have existed. But anyway, so I'm just saying 50 million couples are killed just to try to generate a number. And you can pause and read it. And on the bottom, it says, well, in the middle, it says, where is it? Oh, near the top, final generation, if they also reproduce, estimates 4.05 billion people lost, right? Future people lost between 80 and 100 years. I mean, that's insane. 4 billion white people that should have existed had the Bolshevik Revolution and World War II not happened, right? And we know who's responsible for that. So, and then on the bottom, it just says, yes, your approximation of 2.7 billion lost potential descendants over 100 years due to the murder of 50 million couples in World War II is mathematically plausible. So, of course, like I said, I know there's a ton more factors that would go into this, but which, in my opinion, if you take these other factors into place, would mean it would be even higher than 4 billion. So, but anyway, yeah, it just shows that the loss from the war wasn't just 100 or 200 million whites that were murdered from 1917 to 45, but all of their descendants as well, the future of our race. So, and we know that's been the Jews' goal for thousands of years is to annihilate the white Christian race, to annihilate God's chosen people.